For Anastasia Gilchrist, a 24-year-old Victorian, the apology will definitely be at the front of my mind when she goes to vote, while 21-year-old student Phoebe Hobbs says it will be a heavy consideration. Too late. The acknowledgement statement to Higgins and other women who had been bullied, harassed or abused in Canberra was the first recommendation of Sex Discrimination Commissioner Jenkins setting the standard report. It took on a political tone on the first sitting day for 2022. Women who spoke to AFR Weekend believe that the timing of Morrison's apology made it seem more like an election stunt than an effort to implement change, even though it was scheduled as soon as possible after the report had been received. If his concerns and apology were sincere, you'd think more would have been done at the time Brittany Higgins first disclosed the allegations, Gilchrist says. Hobbs adds, he's had so long, and he's doing it now 5 weeks before he has to call an election. For 34-year-old Marley Tanner, who works in the arts, the apology without more immediate action attached was also not enough to make up for Morrison's previous mishandling of Higgins' complaints. It was very much done around optics, less so around action. Words are important, and Brittany did say in the press club on Wednesday that it had meaning for her, she says. Advertisement. But for women, all of us have experienced sexual harassment in some form in workplaces. And we are angry and tired, and we don't want words anymore. We want action and understanding. Higgins said Morrison had failed to take action. I didn't want his sympathy as a father. I wanted him to use his power as Prime Minister, she said at the National Press Club this week. Some of his language last year was shocking and, at times, admittedly a bit offensive. But his words wouldn't matter if his actions had measured up. Then, or since. But Jenkins sees cause for optimism. She says the nation is at a turning point, describing the speeches by Higgins and former Australian of the Year Grace Tame at the National Press Club this week as signs of major change. Sex Discrimination Commissioner Jenkins sees cause for hope. Arsene Husbian. They were almost proof of why we need more diversity in all parts of life, and particularly in political life, she said on Friday. We need more, and that was really one of the conclusions of Set the Standard. We need more diverse perspectives. They do speak to both men and women, they speak such sense, and reaching as many of our community as they can is a real benefit for progress. DeSalvo, who does not view herself as aligned with any particular party, says that if Morrison was serious about change, he should encourage women to run for Parliament. Labor has achieved near parity in Canberra, but the coalition is well behind. If he wanted to see change, he would use his power to see women leading and having power in the major parties, DeSalvo says. Advertisement. The response to the Jenkins report was set in motion this week. Legislation introduced to protect political staffers' workplace rights will lead to changes in the Fair Work Act, the Age and Disability Discrimination Acts, and the law that governs employment in MPs' offices, the Members of Parliament Staff Act. Workplace health and safety obligations will also be amended to apply to MPs in their roles as employers. Labor has challenged the government to accept a Jenkins recommendation that employers have a positive duty to protect workers from sexual harassment in the workplace. Jenkins says she was satisfied with the apology in both Houses of Parliament on Tuesday. People have said to me they are still cynical and concerned. But that acknowledgement went beyond what I had hoped. Liberals lose lifetime voters. In Sydney, where high-profile independent candidate Nicolette Boele is challenging Communications Minister Paul Fletcher for the seat of Bradfield, Kate Needham says this year's election will signify a personal departure. Scott Morrison's apology in the House this week fell flat with voters. Alex Ellinghausen. She's voted Liberal for years, mostly because that's what her parents did. The public servant says she feels the coalition has missed the moment on the treatment of women. It's a bit ridiculous, given that I'm now 45. I've never really changed from that, but in the past few years, and particularly given I have teenage daughters, I've noticed the tone of things isn't very good. There seems to be a lot of lip service about treating women with respect and respecting sexual assault survivors, and all of these things. They sort of talk the talk, but no one seems to be doing anything tangible. Advertisement. Marcella Graham says both the Liberals and Labor have let down average voters. The Sydney IT worker and mother of two is looking away from the major parties ahead of the election expected in May. I just feel that all these things have been handled really poorly. When I take a look at Brittany Higgins, and the transparency and support for her given such a difficult situation, and being so brave to stand up for herself, and not be washed away. Preparing to vote for better policies to tackle climate change and improve integrity in politics, she is scathing about Morrison. I think his actions have demonstrated that he doesn't understand enough about women's challenges in the workplace. Back to the economy. Nonetheless, the government is taking heart from women's reaction to the 2019 budget, which helped frame Morrison's miracle election-winning campaign. Key measures played well with swinging female voters, and are set to be replayed next month. Internal polling shows attacks on Morrison by Tame and others have turned off some voters. And while Liberal women might be angry at the Prime Minister, strategists believe most of them are unlikely to vote for Labor. The religious freedom debate shows how quickly things can go wrong for a government already running as the underdog. Just 2 days after Morrison told his party room that support for the legislation was emblematic of the unity needed to win the election, he was forced to shelve the package after 5 Liberal MPs, including moderates Katie Allen and Fiona Martin, crossed the floor to vote with Labor and the crossbench. Now the bill is on ice and represents another broken promise for Morrison, despite first being put on the agenda in 2018. The Prime Minister even faced damaging cabinet leaks over his proposal to bring forward anti-corruption commission legislation in an effort to appease moderate MPs. Back in Sydney, long-time Liberal voter Kate Needham has seen enough. She blames Morrison for poor leadership across Parliament and the highest levels of government. A lot of women have just had enough. They are just fed up with it all.